Hello and welcome also from my side. Здравствуйте, Kiev. How are you guys doing tonight? Yeah, this session is about crowdsourcing, and I want to discuss with you guys how far can you go? Is it actually possible to crowdsource a startup? But let's kick this off with a little game here. You probably know this, hot or not. And you can decide, is this hot, working in a startup alone in a cubicle and trying to work on your startup? Or is this something which might be hot? Getting support from the crowd on executing your startup. Why should you do this? Why should you think about it? Actually, based on our numbers, you can actually save up to 80% of your cash needs by using your equity as a currency to motivate your talents in your team. And 100% faster. You know how it is. It's all about execution. And if you don't have execution, you can't go fast enough. And maybe the second will be the last in your industry. And even if you have a bright idea and you think this idea is awesome, you will notice that probably at least 10 teams in the world work on the same idea. So it's really about execution, going very fast forward with your startup idea. How much do you know about crowdsourcing? This is the shortest definition about crowdsourcing I found. It's basically distributed problem solving through the internet. Usually you can post an issue to the internet and the community, the crowd, will actually work on solving your problem. And I want to give you some experience as an entrepreneur. We started a company called Xanox back in the year 2000. It's an affiliate network, actually the largest affiliate network in Europe right now. And the core idea of Xanox is actually to connect publishers with advertisers, right? And at the end of Xanox, when we exited the company back in 2010, we had about 1 million publisher sites in our network. And we grew this company really from the scratch up to revenues of 300 million in 2010 with about 400 employees in the company. And this company was really about crowdsourcing. Our business model was crowdsourcing. We were able to attract the long tail of publishers, more than 1 million, to contribute their traffic to our network, to our platform. And I can tell you it really scaled. Our learning with Xanox was definitely that ownership changes everything. So we had a small team, and since we had no money at this time, we motivated our first startup team with equity. We basically compensated them with equity, and at the end they were also lucky to make a lot of money when we exited with the company. So the idea of ownership, having ownership in a company changes really everything. It's a very strong motivation, and these people within our startup team were always the hardest working people, and they stayed motivated until the end of our project. And the crowd really rocks, right? I mean, if you can attract the crowd and keep in mind 1 million publisher sites worldwide, so this is really scaling. And this gives you an idea how powerful crowdsourcing actually can be if you use a platform, in this case like Xanox, to attract the long tail, the crowd, and really scale with the crowd. So after Xanox, I said we exited the company in 2010. We went to Silicon Valley to understand what's the secret of Silicon Valley. Why is it still the hottest startup place in the world? What's the secret about the Silicon Valley? And we met a couple of people, of course, over there, and I want to mention one book or one method. It's the Lean Startup Method by Eric Ries, and so he has developed together with Steve Blank and the entrepreneurship professor at Stanford a model how to validate your product very fast. So it's a cycle of build, measure, and learn, and it keeps you going in a loop to improve your product by using very less resources. Okay, and there are also all these great people. Adeo Rassi, the founder of the Founder Institute, he just announced that he had 1,000 startups in his incubator. Paul Graham, the Y Combinator guys, 500 startups, they are all there in this little area. And when we were thinking about our new idea, a nice movie came out, Moneyball. Really? Do you know Moneyball? Have anybody seen the movie? Ah, it's a great movie. Yeah, but it's another great example that software is actually eating up the world, right? Even if the team of the Oakland A's had a much smaller budget, they could compete with the big clubs in the US by using software and big data to analyze the best talent at the right spot. And this really inspired us also for our new startup idea. Actually, it comes down to this kind of success formula. Use equity to motivate your team, engage the crowd to scale. Use the Lean Startup Method. Again, I highly recommend to read the book from Eric Ries. And the idea of Moneyball for startups, right? What is a good startup? Who has the best execution and the best idea? And this was basically the blueprint for our new project. It's called UFO Start, and you can see we like orange. And this is definitely our company color, and we thought, okay, we are on a new mission now. You know, let's bring our expertise with running great platforms into the world of startups. And as usual in the Silicon Valley, we started, of course, in a garage like HP or Steve Jobs did, and it was very. It was a great experience to do this in Silicon Valley, actually. Yeah, and now he is the entrepreneur, and as you all know, who's running a startup, there are a lot of issues and challenges for an entrepreneur. Basically, he needs money, he has a lot of tasks, he needs goods like an office, and of course, following also the idea of the Lean Startup, he needs customer feedback. And this was basically the challenge, and we thought, okay, what can we contribute with our idea of UFO Start to this ecosystem of an entrepreneur and make basically the idea or the strengths of Silicon Valley global accessible. And here's the first screenshot of our platform, UFO Start. And it connects basically startups with investors, with global talents. And it should be easy, like tweeting a task to the crowd and get the task done. So what are the success factors for a startup? As you probably all know, you need team, experts. I think we have heard it 1,000 times also through this conference. You need distribution. Everybody, every startup needs clients and a high scaling distribution strategy. And of course, last but not least, you need some money to buy pizza and other stuff for the team. And let's go through these different topics. Let's start with money. It's probably the easiest part, and you are most likely aware of platforms like Kickstarter, AngelList. They just started a new product called AngelList Syndicate, and with the support of the new Jobs Act in the US, we will probably see further growth in the world of crowdfunding. About 300 platforms worldwide exist for the topic of crowdfunding, and it's definitely worth to check it out. And I brought the famous example of the Pebble watch from Kickstarter. They raised over 10 million for their Kickstarter project. And it's a growing industry. Actually, this year we will see about 100% in growth in the crowdfunding industry. And as I said, with the change of regulation, especially in the US, we will see further growth in the next years. And yeah, what are the challenges in terms of distribution? Every startup needs distribution, high scaling distribution for a reasonable price. And these are basically the challenges or the tasks you have to do. You have to think about an affiliate marketing strategy, display campaign, email campaign. All these topics are on your agenda, and there are lots of platforms, crowdsourcing platforms to use, like the mobile platforms, Google, Commission Junction, Criteo, to name some of them. But usually it's not that easy to use all these platforms, and if you just want to try it, is affiliate marketing, in our example here, a good strategy for me to get new clients, then you basically have to, in a traditional way, would have to hire an expert to use this kind of online marketing channel. And we think it's a much better and smarter idea to get some experts in the crowd and try to bring them on board to execute on your affiliate campaign very soon. That means you always need an expert to use these kind of crowdsourcing platforms, and this is what we want to contribute with UFO Start. You probably know this issue if you want to reach out, even if in your personal network, it's hard to find the right expert who can actually contribute something on your startup, on your task. And this is what we make visible for startups on UFO Start. You can see your social network, see, okay, who has the skills to run my affiliate campaign, my SEO campaign, or my email campaign. And we have a lot of functionality to actually provide this view. You can pitch your idea on UFO Start, like on AngelList or Kickstarter, very common. And then you can say, okay, for the next 3 months, for instance, I have the needs to implement an API to LinkedIn. Who can help me with that? Or I want to run an online marketing campaign. Who can actually set up my affiliate tool or my AdSense campaign? And then you reach out with these tasks to your community, and you try to find the right profiles. And the system actually helps a lot in finding these kind of talents by using their social skills, which you have on LinkedIn and Facebook and on other platforms, just by connecting your profile to the platform. Okay, and crowdsourcing.org, this is the industry blog. It's definitely worth to check it out. What kind of crowdsourcing platforms exist out there, and how you can basically use it. There are millions of needs which you can have. We talked about distribution, money, and also sometimes you need just an office. And we have thought about all these startup needs, and we brought these needs on the platform on UFO Start. And we match actually these needs to the existing crowdsourcing platforms. And we have about 1,300 crowdsourcing networks on the platform, and it's very easy to match the needed skills with the platform. Again, this is an example of a transaction we did. It's a startup called ItemBase. They actually found experts and money on UFO Start to execute on their project ItemBase. Yeah, this is the scenario of UFO Start. So our vision is to bring everything together like a marketplace on UFO Start, the entrepreneur, the expert, the investor, to execute very fast on your startup idea. And if you like the idea of UFO Start, crowdsourcing a startup, why don't you check out your own UFO? And we do have a special offer for all the IDCEE attendees. It's a 100K campaign of UFO Start, and which includes a 10K cash portion. Check it out, start your own UFO. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. So does anybody have questions in the audience? Let's see where the extra mic is. Does anybody have questions? If not, I'm going to ask some questions. Or I'm just going to call on you to ask questions. Are you ready? Oh, I'm old. You've got to have some question. Any question. Anybody? Okay, so you're helping startups raise money.
Right.
What was the hardest thing that you guys dealt with when starting this? And how did you solve it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mentioned the story that we went to Silicon Valley, and we had a lot of inspirations, and actually we had to decide, okay, which is our focus on UFO Start, and we focus on the three things: experts, money, and customers. And so this was really a hard process for us, and we needed the design thinking process to come to a good solution.
What was the biggest mistake you did, and what did you learn from that?
Biggest mistake. So this is your favorite question, even.
I love learning from everybody, because this is what people learn.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect in life, especially startups. You heard earlier, we make mistakes all the time, and the good entrepreneurs learn from those mistakes. So I like hearing from different people.
Yeah, actually, it's related to the lean startup model. I told you guys that we had about 400 employees within Xerox. It was really a global organization with offices in Asia, Europe, and the US. And once we grew to, I don't know, 200 people at Xerox, it was really hard to reach everybody. And we thought, okay, how can we stay lean in the company? And once you have a certain management level, it's really hard to motivate the company as you did when you were a startup, right? And I would change definitely the next time, especially for UFO Start, the idea: is it necessary to have all these people in your company, or is it even smarter to understand, okay, what is your core competency, and reach out to services which are very focused on the service and stay lean?
How did you come up with the color orange to be your company color?
Yeah, it keeps you smiling, right? Even if it's dark outside.
I think it's a great color. I just love it. I mean, I feel like I'm a little dark here, and I could use a little coloring.
Men in Black.
Men in Black, yeah. Yes, I love it. We inspired him. I'm going to hurt myself.
Thank you for the speech. Just a quick question regarding the startup stage. Have you observed any differences across different countries when we're talking about actually the startup stage? And maybe you can comment on maybe some specifics with regards to Ukraine.
Yeah, great question. Of course, there are differences in the world. And as I mentioned, we went to Silicon Valley. And the situation in Silicon Valley is actually that investors are pitching good startups, right? There is enough money, and it's more or less easy for a good startup to raise money. But in different areas of the world, it's totally different. You know, there is basically no chance to raise money to execute on your startup idea. And then what's the option? Should you just stop your startup idea, or is there an alternative way to get your startup idea going by reaching out to your network, saying, okay, if you can contribute something, I will give you a piece of the company in terms of equity. And so we figured out that is a totally different situation in Europe. Even in Germany, it's much harder to raise money, and probably also in Asia, Eastern Europe, that's a different story. And that's why we like the idea again to run a global platform where talents from all over the world can get connected with the hottest startups in the world.
So many entrepreneurs, and I don't think you mentioned this, but many entrepreneurs have mentors. Yeah. Do you have a mentor that helps you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned Adeo Ressi, the founder of the Founder Institute. So he was a great mentor for us in Silicon Valley. And of course, all the startups. I mean, we probably saw about 1,000 pitches in Silicon Valley. And so this was all input for us, and we learned by also these great guys.
So Adeo has very insightful comments frequently and very direct comments frequently. Give us an example of a discussion with Adeo and something that he said that you weren't thinking about, or that really helped clarify a challenge you were dealing with. And tell us actually how he delivered that comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think he really knows the space. He knows every VC in the Valley. And we had a discussion with him at his office in Mountain View. And we presented our concept to him, and he stood up and said, okay, guys, you should focus on family and friends funding. This is it, because there are VCs and other platforms. Focus on this. And then he got a coffee and went away.
And he just went away, walked away. And did that change what you were thinking about, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, we have to invite startups to the platform to get really data, what they do prefer. And I think this is the smartest way to start a product today, to basically launch a product, go out, get customer feedback, and change a product.
Any other questions from the audience before I ask another question? We've got a minute or two left, so you got to survive another 2 minutes with me on stage. What other questions do I like asking? So, so it's the two of you guys are the co-founders, correct? Oh, three people. So how did you choose the fourth person to join your team? The first non-co-founder. How did you choose and select that person to join the team?
Now for you to start, I mean, when we started Xanox, it was basically our family and friends network. So we invited talents which we met during our lives when we were studying, and this kind of stuff. So it was basically family and friends.
The first person, the next person that you joined your team, who was it? What was the role? And because I mean, usually after the founders start a company, the hardest person is to find that next person that is good and has the same passion as the founders. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Full-time employee.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's about trust. You know, if you are like a wolf pack, 3 guys really working hard on your startup idea, then you only can accept something like a very good friend, someone who knows that he can actually execute, because your startup is your life, right? And if you blow this up, your life is, different then. And that's why we choose, I think, 2 developers basically to get traction for our product development, and this was from our personal network.
And how many are you now?
At Start, we are now 4 people in our core team, lean, and we have about 15 developers distributed over the world. And we really eat our own dog food, you know, to at the end have a proof that it can actually work. Stay lean, go forward as fast as you can.
Okay. So with 3 founders, I'm sure you don't agree on everything.
No.
Okay. So what was the biggest disagreement, and how did you solve that?
Ooh, the biggest, that's really hard to say, but I think, you know, it's a very creative process, you know, and we know each other for like all of our lives, right? So even if there's a very strong discussion, you know, there's always a compromise. And our rule in our startup team is we are three, and there's always a decision, you know, at the end, if we can't come to our agreement through discussion, we just basically vote. And then it means usually 2-1, and then we have a decision.
Fantastic. A round of applause. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great job. Okay, next up, we are bringing to the stage, very excited, and he's actually getting pitched over here. So we've got Techstars, where, what, who. John Bradford's gonna come up. He's one of our judges. He's still smiling. Are you coming up? Are you getting pitched? Somebody's pitching him. So Techstars, John Bradford, Managing Director in London. Everybody that's interested in Techstars should come on to the startup stage and listen to John. You know, he's really casual. Should I go get us a bottle of whiskey? And because you're leaving tonight, right? So I don't want you to miss out on all of the fun.